Good evening. Welcome to Future of Construction, a better way to build and collaborate. I'm Jayshree Mendes, editor Construction Week. And today we have with us some of the esteemed panelists. We have Srinivasa Rao, VP of My Home Constructions. We have Mr. Yogesh Kajale, VP Projects from DJ Shirke Constructions. We have Nikhil Bagalpurkar from Autodesk. And I will be moderating. And we'll have Mukesh Jetli, CEO of Kolte Patil, join us shortly. Before we begin, I would like to tell you all that today's session will talk about the digital transformation that's happening in construction, how organizations are upskilling their staff to learn to come up to date on modern technologies. We're looking at how conventional project delivery methods are being shown the window, and then newer methods, construction technologies are being roped in. And all this will be answered by our esteemed panelists today. We'll start shooting a question first to Mr. Yogesh Kajale. Yogesh, what is the significance of industrialization in the construction industry and in the convergence of manufacturing and construction?
Construction industry in India has largely been governed by the conventional methods. So, in true sense, that kind of industrialization hasn't been practiced by and large in the construction projects. The industrialization is basically to aim at objective quality controls rather than having these subjective things. So, what I mean to say industrialization is basically to have a proper integration of various equipment, machineries with the construction crew, so that the construction is nothing but a manufacturing. The thing is that the manufacturing happens at the in situ place. That is where the construction is going to happen, there the manufacturing starts. So industrialization in construction engineering would be basically to aim at exploring the possibilities of identifying a certain component, certain set of processes which can be manufactured away from the construction place, away from where the exact construction is going to happen. So that kind of industrialization and that kind of convergence between manufacturing and construction has to take place. Say, for example, the good example could be that once we switch over to precast or pre-engineered building, that could be one way of introducing industrialization in construction industry. The other possibility could be that we identify certain processes, right, like reinforcement and bar making process, which can be processed prior to actual construction happening within the factory, and the controls can be through design office as well as site offices. So that kind of industrialization is very much possible and would be most significant considering our requirement in today's scenario.
How important is data and connecting data from design to construction?
Today, the construction industry, as Yogesh already explained, we are moving into the industrial construction. In this particular field, since we are moving from the brick and mortar to bring the molds and construct it. So the brick and mortar word, which is so far associated with the construction, is slowly going away with the precast, with the pre-engineering building, and nowadays even the steel and various other bar bending also, even a small work which can be outsourced earlier. People did not do it because many things in the construction industry till recently were designed or understood by few important peoples at the construction site. You do this like this, you do this like this, you do this like this. Morning, some briefing is done by some mestri to the architect to the bigger people, and they leave the place, and thereafter people have done it. So we have moved from that particular stage for the last 10 to 15 years. People moved to a lot of automation like CAD and various other things. So all these were the 2D designing. So there was a lot of improvement till at least I can say last 15, 20 years, many people started using, and now almost everybody is using. Now we are moving from the 2D designing to the 3D designing also, and using the rivets, beams and various other things. When construction industry from brick and mortar to the construct with a pre-engineered programming, data has utmost important, because no one knows what is the next step unless and until you have a proper integration. So the data, ERP and all other things originally associated only with the finance people, accountings, or partly to the purchases and various other things. Now, like if I have to take an example of our my home into the consideration, so everything is completely paperless. Maybe that means if you have architects or some consultants, they upload on our database server with some code or something or the other, they upload from their offices, which are connected to our WBS elements. And those WBS elements, whoever have the access at our construction site, at our corporate site, they will review and they will give the comments and go. So that means all the modifications and everything is are captured, and all the people whoever are connected are immediately given. And more so, this is only transferring the data from one person to the other person. But today, it is taking further shapes. That is when things are going into the 3D shape. What is 3D shape means? Three-dimensional from the two-dimensional. So what at the ground level somebody is doing. So after this pipe, you put this pipe. After this pipe, you put this slab, kind of things also are being designed at corporate office and given the just advice at the construction site. And today, already there is a normal manpower shortage is already available. So God only knows, only the real estate industries or construction industries can say there is no unemployment problem at all, because we are finding it very hard to get the masons, finding very hard to get middle level supervisors. We are finding it very hard. So when normal people itself, then we are unable to find skilled labor and knowledgeable personnel availability, almost is scarce. So under this current environment, data has utmost important to the associated to the construction industry. Now tech word moved to the data to the digital and various other things. So thus I think the data has become part and parcel of the construction industry now, and without that going further is almost quite impossible.
I will come back to that question again. Very interesting. Nikki, going forward, what are some of the changes in construction processes that will come up, and what is the impact of the sector, or what are the repercussions on the sector?
Thanks, Jayashree. You bring up a great point. And so before I jump into some of the changes in the sector, let's just look at some of the facts for our home, right, which is our country. So by 2050, 2 billion of us will call India home, and the number of people living in cities will almost double in the coming decade or so. Take a second, look around, look to your left, look to your right, look out of the window, and try and understand whether the cities that we live in, whether they can actually cater to the kind of expansion that is needed to cater to this growing population, as well as this rapid, massive expansion. Now, all of this is getting fueled to a large extent by a rapid rise in the Indian middle class. It's expected, and this is a report by PwC that says that the real wages are expected to quadruple for Indians compared to the 2013 number by 2030. So in the next 8 years, compared to 2013, you'll have 4 times the real wages. So if I were to translate it into a very simple number, according to analysts, it's 1.3 lakh people joining the Indian middle class every single day. Now, what do people joining the Indian middle class want? They want access to better smartphones. They want access to motorized transport, better food, better retail services. And as the old Indian adage goes, there's roti, kapda, and makan, right? With the Indian mindset, you will see a lot more people investing in the residential and the housing space. So much so that we need to be building as much as 3,000 buildings every single day to meet this urbanization need that's going to come in. And that's also backed by various inputs, right? The Indian construction industry will grow at a 15.7% CAGR at minimum, and will be contributing $1 trillion out of the $5 trillion economy that the government is really pushing for. Net, if there is a big gap in terms of what the current construction capacity that we have as a country and what the construction capacity that is needed to support the growth for the country. And going forward, we'll see a lot of changes in this domain, primarily driven by 3 big factors. The first one, we had Yogesh ji from Shirke Construction talk about is the advent of industrialized construction. So if you look at the manufacturing segment, for 100 units of input, if they produced 100 units of output in 2010, by 2020, that's 180 units of output for the same 100 units of input. By contrast, the construction sector hasn't become as efficient. And industrialized construction is trying to bring in the efficiencies of mass production, assembly lines to the construction and the housing market as a whole. That's going to unlock a lot of efficiencies. And it's not something that is kind of can happen. It is absolutely going to happen, whether we like it or not. The second big change that's going to happen is the advent of AI and machine learning. So today, if you look at it, a lot of the construction process, right from concept design to construction to even operations of an asset, it is taken care by humans and what lies between our ears. We are error prone, we have our own ups and downs as human beings. Bringing in AI and machine learning can shorten the cycles across all three of these phases, which is design, construction, as well as operations. Using machine learning, you will be able to design buildings by providing some basic parameters. And then instead of working on 5 viable options, you'll have the computer algorithm turn out 1,000 options and choose the best one based on things like wind flow, heating, solar gain, occupant comfort, views out of the building. All of these, the machine learning algorithms will do to churn out some 15, 20, 30,000 odd drawings and designs, which are up to LOD 350 for the designers and the owner operators to take a call on. The same thing will continue into the construction phase as well, where you will see a lot of the construction work today. There is a backlog. Around 66% of all construction projects in our country, government funded and private, are either over time or are over budget. So by bringing in this machine learning and AI logic, you will be able to predict challenges on site during the construction phase a lot before they actually happen. You'll know that there's a HVAC, a pipe, a drain pipe that is running through a column a lot before you actually start doing the construction work on the ground, helping you save tons of money and also reduce the time required for construction. And the last important thing that's going to happen, that's going to really transform the construction process, is the advent of smart technologies and IoTs. Today, if you look at it, it's a very niche kind of a market where it's common to have an Alexa enabled home or a Google home. I'm not going to say the other names, others, all your phones will start beeping. But what's happening is that there's a lot of these IoT devices that are becoming incredibly cheap. Today, you could actually find a 4-gang smart device or a smart switch for your house for under 2,000 rupees. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring in a lot of integration of these smart devices into the houses and into the, not just houses, even in the infra segment or even inside public residential spaces. And inputs from these will help make better decisions through the AI logic again at the back end to maintain and operate the infrastructure that you've set up. 80% of whatever is the expenses of a particular asset occurs during the operations phase, not during the construction phase. So constructing the house, if it costs X, you will end up spending 4X in terms of electricity, maintenance, in terms of water expenses throughout the life cycle of that project. And that's where IoT devices, digital twins, AI, machine learning will all come together to provide predictive directions to where to optimize and how to optimize. So essentially, the entire sector will change in the coming 3 to 4 years. There'll be the advent of machine learning for making better design, operation, and construction decisions. There will be the advent of industrialized construction at a far greater scale. And I think I'm really keen to hear from Yogesh and how they've been able to leverage industrialized construction, because that will become the norm for predictability and meeting regulatory guidelines, including things like RERA, right? Delivering projects on time every time. Otherwise, there's a huge penalty associated with it. And the last one is around digital twins and getting the IoT and the intelligence getting fused into the technology.
Yogesh, see, I mean, Nikhil put it very well, summed it up very well, what the future we can hold in terms of projects in future. But what are some of the biggest hurdles that you see to deliver projects on time and within budget? And how can technology or digitization help you in building faster?
Actually, Nikhil touched many aspects during his introductory answer. He basically pointed out a lot of those factors which are going to contribute in speedy delivery as well as optimizing the cost. See, the generations, what today's generation, we actually are demanding, have gone through the speed of 2G, 3G, 4G, and then 5G. So basically, everyone expect that things should happen yesterday. So also the moment, say for example, housing is the biggest need of every citizen in India. Even after independence, after 75 years of independence, we still are planning to build 22 million of houses. So that itself confirms that the speed of construction was not up to the mark, whatever has happened over the period of last 75 years. Of course, I won't blame a particular thing or the policies as such, but naturally the demands were not, nobody was bothered about how should be the house, how it is to be constructed and all. So in true sense, that kind of industrialization hasn't happened over the period of last 60, 65 years. During past 10 years, the construction industry has, in India particularly, has seen a lot of changes and lot of upgradations. Today, speed of delivery, what is expected, is literally at a very fast pace. And the conventional methods at which the industry is typically operating is definitely not going to deliver the product at that speed. It is also a fact that a lot of rework is needed and a lot of rework is being done at many places during the course of construction. The rework, of course, is at certain cost, then time, and as well as there is a compromise on quality. So the digitization and artificial intelligence, the moment we add these parameters into the construction industry, it is going to give us a lot of benefits in terms of controlling the cost, that is, I would say, optimum price. So also delivering the product at a much faster pace. See, in earlier days, we used to talk about 3 years, 4 years time of construction. In today's scenario, we are talking of construction time in months, 36 months, 24 months, 12 months. In coming days, after over the period of next 5-6 years, I'm pretty sure that we all would be talking in terms of days. And a time is not far from us when we would be talking in terms of hours. The 3D printing technology would definitely enable the industry to build literally in 24 hours or 48 hours a certain quantum of houses. Of course, the quantum has to be there, otherwise the cost would be quite prohibitive. So I definitely see a lot of requirement or a lot of integration when we are going and marching towards the industrialization in construction industry, particularly in terms of integrating artificial intelligence and then also integrating various BIM tools in the industry.
That's interesting. Srinivas, Yogesh was just talking about industrialization of construction. Tell us in a few words what exactly industrialization of construction would be. Is it gaining momentum globally? And where does India stand in adopting it? And are you also exploring such a possibility? 4 questions.
As Yogesh and Nikhil rightly said, the construction is taking to the next level. Industrialization of the construction means, in a simply what we have to put it, somewhere some things have been done and it is getting assembled at construction site. Why this is, say, if we have to put it. And rather than answering the questions in one particular way, I'll tell what my home really did it towards the industrialization. Maybe if I have to give an example, in 2008 and 2012, we have completed one big project of 3.2 million square foot in about 4 to 4.5 years. On site, we have constructed, and each slab to slab, brick and mortar what we have used. And immediately thereafter, from 2012 to 2016, when we have done, we have gone to the Maiwan technology, where each slab has taken only 10 to 12 days to 14 days, 15 days kind of thing. And from that particular moment, today our last project, we have completed slab to slab 8 to 9 days. So now even the slab to slab 9 days is also not happy to the management. And today what we are doing is we are constructing about 35 to 40 million square foot of township kind of thing at one particular place in Hyderabad, where much before even the constructing the building, we have built up our precast plant, which has about 2 million ton capacity kind of thing. So earlier when a motor is to be required, people used to make at the site. Then RMC has become a norm. Then with the RMC and pumps have become a norm and it is pouring. And now everything is done aside next to the construction site as a precast. And we are installing the cranes which are of a large size, where one big flat is built at outside the construction site and it is lifted and it is just put in. So why this is happening? Industrialization of construction is happening in two ways. One is vertical and second is horizontal. When we are going for the vertical, people are going for 20-storied, 30-storied, 40-storied. In Hyderabad itself, we are probably, if everything goes well, we may see 40+ storied buildings of at least 20 in next 3 to 4 years to come. So when a building is to be constructed with 30, 40, 50 storied, without industrial construction, it is quite impossible because masonry cannot work at the top. And communication, network, connectivity, and after one job to the other job, how people have to do it. So the entire construction activity also has to be dismantled into several segments. So one such important segment is the precast. Once you complete the precast at the end, say it has to be constructed there and it is built. Nowadays, people are calling toilet pods also. Like a lift, you have ducts and lift is being put in and toilet pods also ready to fit in is coming and is being put in. And now we are going into the next phase, where is even MEP also. MEP where plumbing, electrical and all other things with the pre-designed is being done at the factory sites of the supplier, and they have come over here and assembly. Probably construction sites are becoming an assembly lines rather than construction sites. So majority of the issues are to a certain extent, even my home also is taking as Lord 350 or something or the other, what Nikhil already touched upon. We are already using rivet beam and all other things have become a normal norm. Now steel, when moved from 55,000 to 85,000, 90,000, even unless and until you maintain the just-in-time kind of material, even paying a huge amount and holding the raw material at the construction site and doing it also is impossible task. So especially industrialization of construction in the vertical space is all the more required for speed, for quick, for precision, for various other things, because labor is not at all available. Actually, you have to plan for 10 years back, we have planned for 1/10 of the labor available 20 years back. Now we are planning to 1/10 of the labor of the last 10 years. And some of our construction sites, if you see, they are becoming a lab. So what are all we have talked about 10 years back in the construction is no more available. So that is the reason what I mean to say, especially vertical construction, when it is happening, too much of an industrialization is happening. When horizontally, that means row houses or small houses, like where 22 million houses, 30 million houses, when you have to build in the villages and all other things, even we need to have more of a precast so that lesser time is involved. And now urbanization has become a old word. Now, earlier people are moving to the urban cities. Now, many small villages, many small towns in the districts are becoming urban towns. And with the road connectivity, when not only the vertical, even the horizontal also it is happening. And now we are observing in some of the district headquarters of the Telangana, even you have skyscrapers. And urbanization does not mean that people are moving to the towns and cities. Urbanization is going for a reverse integration, where even if not exactly the village, at least mandal headquarters and taluka headquarters are coming up with good construction sites. So there you will not be able to get good manpower, skilled manpower to do many things. With the industrialization adoption, many things can be done at advanced places like at least district headquarters and cities and various other things. Only implementation will happen at the village and these kind of things. Thus, for vertical skyscrapers kind of buildings or a horizontal, this industrialization of the construction industry in all respects and using of the data and digital scanners, and we are showing progress of the flats. Someone sitting in US and his dad or son comes to our flat. He wears a VF camera and he just see the flat, and the fellow will be able to visualize over there how the construction. Now we are placing the CCTV cameras at many number of places within the construction site, which is helping the corporate office people also to monitor the construction site and even the customer, and sometimes build to suit kind of things when we are putting it. We can have a conferences over phone, and very recently we have conducted very high level meeting where switch on the camera 22 to the this particular site, switch on 23 camera to this site. So simultaneously, instead of making presentations, just make the presentations live, we are even showing the live construction site and making the presentations more interactive. So these are going to help us a lot. And now with the COVID, thanks to the COVID, for some of the meetings and all other things have become digital. We are able to get the talents of the world. Architectural consultants, architectural engineers and construction engineers across the world from the ACOM and various other people sitting in their own cities or the countries are able to monitor and control and advise on the ground side. So thus already we have traveled far. And as Yogesh said, since the needs are many, this side also we are growing up, and now we are not finding the labor, we are not finding in the civil engineers, and the demand for the civil engineers who have adopted latest technologies are going to be the norm. So thus we find the importance. We have already implemented many things, and we are going to do it because at least 4 million to 5 million square foot of construction when we are taking it up. All these have become a mandatory rather than only adopting the new technology. Without this, we will not be able to deliver, or we will not be able to sustain.
Nikhil, coming to you, you spoke about digital transformation, which enables a business to reduce waste and accelerate outdated processes. But as organizations begin, to digitize, do they also need to invest time in upskilling their staff with best practices to ensure successful adoption? And what suggestions do you have to help organizations train their resources?
There is definitely a challenge with respect to the productivity in the segment as well. The construction segment in our country consumes around 40% of all raw materials that we produce, and creates 30% of all the waste that is produced in our plant. So there is definitely a challenge related to that. As we look at digital transformation and look towards the future, it's very important to realize that when it comes to delivering or constructing any building or a road or a metro project, it's no longer just one organization that runs the entire show end to end. It takes, there's an old saying, it takes a village to build a small house, right? So you can just imagine when you scale it to large scale projects, highways, residential complexes, you have the architects, you have the structural consultants, the MEP consultants, you have the general contractors, the multiple folks that are involved. In this kind of a scenario, one of the primary causes of inefficiency is because everybody is running in their own ecosystem, and the consistency of information across all these stakeholders, as well as the recency of information across all of these stakeholders, is sometimes lost. For example, the architect could be working on a design which is not in sync with what the structural engineer is analyzing. And then there's a lot of rework that gets done even in the design phase. And because the MEP consultant and the structural engineer are not in sync, you will end up in scenarios where you've got HVAC ducts running through beams, and you would have firefighting equipment clashing with the HVAC ducts again. So all of these challenges come in because you need to have a common data environment, and you need to have everybody talking to the same common data environment. So if I have a challenge, if I have a problem, Rather than calling up the person or using personal relationship, there should be a simple unified system through which you can have communication and logging and back and forth. And that also builds in a lot of accountability in the broader ecosystem. So if there is a challenge, instead of me calling up and waiting for something, if I'm able to put it in the system, the organization can measure the TAT and then take corrective measures to improve the overall processes within the organization. So, in terms of the journey, I would say that it's not a simple overnight switch saying that, okay, you switch off what you are doing currently and then move to the new paradigm. And suddenly, from tomorrow, everybody's using iPads and tablets and going digital. It's a journey that is got some clear demarcated steps, right? So, as an organization, if you're using 2D today, if you're using CAD and CAD-based drawing, I believe the first step for you, and as Renu, as you also mentioned, is to move towards BIM and the third dimension of construction. As you kind of gain maturity and your teams understand how to navigate the BIM models, how do you take quantities out of the BIM model, how do you do accurate estimations, and once you realize the benefits, the next logical step for the same set of customers or projects would be to start leveraging connected BIM, ensuring that not just your organization, but also your other stakeholders, your consultants, your contractors are on the same platform and are communicating with you on that same unified model. And that's when you really start unlocking efficiencies where you ensure that everybody's talking the same language, using the same data. You don't end up in scenarios when you go to construct and you're scratching your head. This drawing says something and this other drawing says something, and it happens more often than you think. Uh, the last one is after you've realized the process around getting to the connected BIM, the next resource or the next switch is to start using automation in a lot of the processes. If there are repeatable tasks that get done, like somebody needs to pull up a report of all the issues, instead of a person, let's say the BIM manager or any manager spending half a day or one day to just report out what the issues are, or report out the progress, or report out the payments, or report out the operating cash flow in terms of what needs to be paid to the contractors vis-a-vis what is there currently in our funding. If all of that can be automated, you will again unlock the next level of efficiency in terms of the organization. So it's a step-by-step journey. If you're on 2D, the next logical step should be to go to BIM and realize the value of BIM. If you have already realized BIM and you're getting efficient at using BIM, the next logical step would be using connected BIM. The next one after that would be to try and leverage automation for multiple other processes. Having said that, the way to roll this out, there are two ways. You build it up from the grassroots levels, but based on our experience and working with close to 10,000 odd customers in the Asia Pacific region, we've seen that this is a slightly more slower and a long term process. The most efficient way to roll it out is to roll it up top down and also do something known as mandates, saying that any drawing coming to me for review has to be on a BIM platform or has to be on this cloud. I'm not going to look at any .rbt file or a .dwg file. It has to be on a cloud and I will only access it from this URL. Or rather, if you're sending anything to me for approval, it has to come through this process only. I don't want to look at emails. I don't want to look at my phone, WhatsApp, SMS, none of that. So once the top-down process is in place, it becomes a lot easier for the broader ecosystem to fall in place. So again, long answer, but hopefully it just throws some lights on the digital transformation.
Yogesh, do you see an accelerated trend towards BIM adoption and BIM mandates in projects across the country?
Yes. In fact, not only accelerated trend, but it has become inevitable for the industry to switch over. And what exactly has made us to switch over to this is the pandemic and the lockdowns we all faced during last 2 years. So nothing is sure what is going to happen. No one is aware how much time we are having. So everybody in the industry, particularly in the construction industry, sat down on the planning table and started working out, chalking out the parallel activities, dependent activities, and the time frame. So BIM has certainly helped, not only helped, but that is the solution for industry to take it forward.
Srinivas, the AEC industry has long been following conventional project delivery methods. And with the pandemic, we are seeing a shift to digital project delivery, just like how Yogesh said just now. What exactly is happening in terms of project delivery, in terms of digital project delivery, and what is the impact on the industry? Yogesh, I want you to answer that afterwards.
With respect to the delivery, there are two types. One, from the offices to the vendors, contractors, and coming with the solutions and the delivery of the material and what it is. If I have to start with it, even forward integration and backward integration kind of things are happening even in the construction industry. So if I have to put it, when I place a purchase order for a cement, automatically all the concerned people are getting, including my supplier and even my stores manager and project in charge, that there is a placement. When the cement is loaded at the construction sites, with the GPS and various other things, even the site people are getting the information on their app at what time we are going to get the material. Likewise, with the advent of the ERP and various other things, availability of the material and sourcing of the material and transportation and everything is clearly available in the entire supply chain mechanism. This is helping us to procure more or to stop it at the right time. Sometimes at the construction, whatever the material is required is equally important, and not to get the material to the sites also equally important. If at right time, if you don't stop the material, frontage for the other people will not be available to complete the basic job. So thus the data integration with the construction team, if that is your question, which I understand correctly, is to be from the purchase order and various levels to construction site. And when it is linked with the finance, as you know, unless and until we try to adopt a just-in-time, may not be practical and possible to a greater extent in construction industry, unless and until we use these technologies in order to optimize the procurement. You will not be able to save the finance cost, you will not be able to manage the stocks at the site, and we will not be able to procure the important material. Say for the data, money, and space, all are equally important. If I unnecessarily use my money for something which is required after 2 months, I may not have the money for something to buy immediately. Same way, if I get the material in advance, which is required after 2 months, even the construction site space is also not available. Thus, this particular data for the costing and for the financing requirements is going to be utmost important rather than not only for the technical aspects. I suppose that is the question which you have asked.
So the question that I threw was, the AEC industry has been following conventional project delivery, and now with the pandemic are moving to digital project delivery. So what exactly is digital project delivery and how does it impact our work?
Digital project delivery, basically what has happened during this pandemic, the industry faced a lot of challenges, construction industry, in a sense that the industry is dependent on a lot of manpower and manforce. For some reason or the other, these are all skilled manpowers which are necessarily required for the construction industry to complete a given set of tasks. During the pandemic, the industry realized that if some missing link is there for some reason or the other, then the whole work gets stopped. So the digital platform, the introduction of the digital platform happened in the construction industry by no choice. Ultimately, by no choice. The industry earlier used to operate with too much of contact, too much of dependency, managing too many things, particularly in organizing the things, organizing the tasks manually, human dependent, and spending hell of a time in sorting out the logistic. So the productivity was much less. The digital tools and digital platform, may it be in terms of directly transferring the set of instruction to the downline worker, the lowermost worker who is supposed to complete a given set of tasks, is happening through a connected platform, connected chain. In this particular chain, everybody is aware at exactly where the work is stopped or the next task is getting affected. So the pandemic has definitely taught construction industry to switch over to the digital tools and digital methods, may it be in terms of transferring the data from one office to other office, may it be in terms of managing the logistic of material procurement, then sending the material to the site, and then managing the material from site store to the individual building site or individual construction place. So also the digitization in terms of manufacturing process has also seen being included in the construction sector. May it be manufacturing processes, may it be automated welding processes, may it be advanced quality assurance and quality checking tools. So, and the best part of this entire digitization is that everything is available on the cloud infrastructure, and it can be accessed. Everything is tagged with a one unique identity number, and everything is tagged to that. It's like an Aadhaar card number or a PAN card number. So all transaction with a one particular identity is available for everyone to see what exactly is happening, which has certainly reduced the time of delivery. So also reduce the cost because the rework has reduced, and it ensure the quality of the end product. That is exactly what has happened.
Nikhil, can you answer that?
When it comes to the shift to digital delivery of the project, so if you look at it from a consistency or a continuity standpoint, all of our teams, they work really hard to design a particular project in the digital format. They would use either AutoCAD or Revit, some other tools. They would do all the analysis, and now you've come up with a beautiful model that is a perfect representation of what the building should look like. We use the same for getting our approvals. We use the same for getting our clearances and CC certificates and everything that's required in the Indian construction industry. Now comes the task of taking what was designed and translating that into construction, and also taking feedback in terms of on-site and bringing it back into the digital model. So what essentially digital project delivery does is it takes the same model, translates it into construction. So when you're doing the actual construction work, you have a continuous two-way connection between the actual work that's happening on site and the digital model. So if you make changes during the construction phase, the same get reflected on the digital model and back and forth, including things like progress tracking and things like that. And not just that, even when you go beyond the construction phase and into the operations or handover phase, how do you hand over the project to the next level of folks who are going to do facility management or operate the particular project? You can actually give the digital twin, the model which reflects what was constructed, along with all the intelligent elements, the pumps, the HVAC units, the fire suppression systems, all of that integrated along with the IoT sensors and everything into the digital model in such a way that that now becomes your digital tracking mechanism. So just to build further on that, let's say if there's an escalator in a particular building that was constructed, and if that escalator was to break down, instead of going and hunting for the books room, which many organizations have to figure out who the owner is, whether it is under active AMC, whom to call for support, all those things, or what is the troubleshooting steps, right from all those elements, all of this that is now integrated into the digital model. And all you do is you click on the element, and then you can figure out whether it's an AMC, who's the AMC vendor, what are the things that you should try out before you contact the vendor, all of those things, or even logging a support ticket. If so, I don't know if you visited Bangalore Airport recently. If you visit Bangalore Airport, you'll see that most of the boarding card printing elements have a small little QR code that is assigned. So if at any point in time any of those elements is broken, if you read the small print, all you need to do is scan that QR code, and then it will take you into a system which goes in and plugs into the digital twin model and says that this particular element is broken or is not working, and that makes life so much easier for the entire staff. So essentially, when you're talking about digital project delivery, it's taking the digital model from the design phase, translating it into the construction phase, having the construction phase be in sync. It's a two-way sync between what's getting constructed and what was designed, and then taking it forward, taking the same model forward and handing it over to the operations phase in a digital format, so that when there is maintenance and continuation of the asset, it is happening in a much more streamlined manner. And again, it opens up lots of efficiencies, right? From predictive maintenance to reduction of waste to even automating some of the tasks that would have otherwise taken a lot of effort.
Audience, we'd like you to choose, we'd like you to vote for this. What are you more interested in? Digital project delivery from design to site, collaboration, model-based design and construction. You have 20 seconds. Yeah, share the results. So 44% say that digital project delivery from design to site is important. 39% say model-based design and construction is important, while 17% talk about collaboration. Can you have the next question? Do you want an Autodesk representative to reach out to you for a detailed discussion? So 43% are interested in receiving a call, and 14% will say they'll reach out to your reseller. We have some very interesting questions from the audience. I would like any one of you to answer it. How will AI work for smaller projects, and what will be the cost efficiency with machine learning and AI?
The beauty of AI is that when used in conjunction with cloud, there is a lot of cost efficiency. Think of it this way: if you want milk, you no longer need to buy the whole cow. The service is run in the cloud, and what essentially happens is you pay for what you use because it's a cloud-based service. What that means is probably some of the simulations or some of the effort that you will do in terms of a large project. Of course, it will require a lot more time, a lot more back and forth compared to a smaller project. So you will automatically get the cost benefit there itself. And again, the beauty of it being on cloud is you only pay based on consumption. When you run a particular model on a SaaS platform, once you get the results and you want to analyze it, that's what you pay for. And essentially AI as a concept, it only makes sense when you have a huge data lake on which you can build your intelligence. Probably if you have 50 drawings and you want to do AI based on 50 drawings, that might not be as effective as probably doing the same, training the AI algorithm using 50 million drawings and 50 million designs. So that's a big factor. Leveraging cloud-based AI definitely has its huge merits. And at the same time, it's not cost prohibitive because you're not installing, you don't need to buy servers, you don't need to invest in a data center. You just leverage it like a SaaS, software as a service.
Just two more questions before we wind up. Can we use MyOne technology in affordable housing project, considering the initial investment for MyOne is huge?
There are basically two technologies available in the housing construction. One is the technology based on cast in situ method, and the other technology is based on pre-engineered or prefab, means precast manufactured method. Now, when a call is to be taken as to which technology is most suited for a particular project, then there has to be two parameters which are to be assessed by the developer or by the stakeholders. The first one is the time in which that project needs to be completed, and the second one, cost at which the project needs to be completed. When I say cost, then it has to be a life cycle cost. So the quality of construction and the money going into that construction to complete the project in that time frame is going to decide what is going to be the life cycle cost. MyOne is nothing but a cast in situ conventional method of construction, wherein lot many activities are certainly required to be carried out at a place where the construction is going to happen. Say, for example, a building of, let's say, 30-story building, having 6 flats on a floor, 6 houses on a floor, 6 dwelling unit on a floor. That means 30 into 6, 180 locations. So the activities are required to be carried out at 180 locations at different levels. And these are all labor intensive. No doubt the shuttering is modular, but the reinforcement placement, the concreting happening at that level, and the curing which is the most crucial and important factor, is also happening at scattered location. So depending on the quantum of the work, the size of the work, say for example, if the project size is of, let's say, 2000 dwelling units, then definitely the precast option would be much beneficial to the developer in terms of cost as well as timely delivery. Had it been a case that the quantum is less than that 2000 figure, then my one would be much suited. If the size is much less than, let's say, 200 units, then of course the regular conventional methods may also be suited.
Just one more question. Can Sushil Dhawan is asking, can somebody give an example in dealing with machine learning to enable faster construction? And how can structures be made durable and sustainable?
I'll give you an example of how AI and machine learning has really helped enable faster construction. So I'll take an example of a huge project that we did, which is a 15 billion pound project in UK. The project's name is Crossrail. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to create an entire underground station line. So one of the challenges that they had, the organization here was Pride and Wood, was they wanted to bring in efficiency and reduce the amount of time required for construction. So they took the model, they did the entire modeling in BIM using Revit, and of course for the infra, the linear elements, they use Civil 3D. And once the modeling was done, they took that model and sent it off to an AI logic. Now the objective of the AI logic was to look at the entire model and break it down into elements that could be mass produced. Industrialized construction, DFMA, the way you call it. So what they did is they took that entire model of the train station, each and every element involved, and then they broke it down into repeatable elements of a certain number. And then they were able to mass produce those elements in the backend. Everything from retaining structures to even the front end facades, they were all able to deduplicate it and convert it into elements that could be constructed at scale in a manufacturing facility. So much so that when they actually started the project, all the staff had to do is assemble a huge jigsaw of sorts. So they would come on site, they would look at the precast element, each one of them had a QR code on them, you scan them, it will tell you where this element belongs. And they would just go and assemble them. At one point in time, progress was so fast that the backend facility, which was actually doing the precasting, had to expand and add more lines of construction to just keep pace with the work which was happening on site. And they were able to deliver the entire project in under 70% of the time and with 99.9% accuracy when it comes to fitment of the precast elements. Another example I'll take is just a couple of weeks before all of us were in New York for a sales kickoff. And if you happen to go to New York, you'll see that there's this new Marriott hotel that has come up, 27 floors. And the beauty of it is that the hotel was constructed in a matter of months. The way they did it is each one of the rooms that hotel belongs to was actually constructed as a pod. Srinivasji and Yogeshji spoke about it, about bathroom pods, but the entire room here, including the facade elements, were all constructed off-site. And what they did is they would construct all of this in Poland, not even the same country. We're talking about a different country. The rooms were constructed in Poland. They were put onto a container ship because they were the size of a container, a full-size container. Once they arrived at the New York port, they would be shipped overnight into the city, through the night into the city, and all that was needed is there was a crane that would come in and hoist it and integrate it into the back-end core, concrete core. Of course, the concrete core was poured in situ, but the overall construction time was reduced quite drastically. The amount of stoppages to the road, if you've been to some really tight cities like Bombay or some of the more older cities, you'll see that there's very little room available for transportation trucks carrying raw materials in and out. Here you're talking about moving elements inside, assembling them, bolting them in, and you're ready to go. So again, another element of how AI and machine learning was able to take a broader structure, break it down into repeatable elements, and then do the entire coordination of the process. Again, I don't want to just talk about stories of outside India and international clients. We've got stories in India as well. I won't name the customer because we don't have an NDA with them. But what they were able to do is they were constructing a particular large vertical project. I won't name what it is because you'll be able to catch on very quickly. And as soon as the construction started happening, they ran into issues in terms of how do I ensure that the payment to my contractors is in line with the completion of the work, or even to the matter of fact, how do I ensure that the construction work that is currently happening is in line with the schedule that I had in place, and whether the contractor is keeping up with the schedule, is running behind schedule, which means that I need to put a penalty or I need to pull him up or things like that. So what they would do is they would have a BIM model based on which the construction was happening, and then at the end of every shift, they would just bring in a totem station and do a LiDAR scan from a few points. And once they did the LiDAR scan, they would take the LiDAR scan, relay it on top of the BIM model, have that plug into the scheduling software, which in this case was Primavera, and using that overlay along with Primavera, the ERP coming in, they could actually take off material cost that was involved by the subcontractor and also relay the progress of the project in real time. So if any element was delayed, they did not have to wait 4 months before things really got bad to fix. Even if things were running behind schedule on a daily basis, they were able to track that. And again, using automation, machine learning to tie together various elements. Again, each one of this is a discrete setup in itself, right? The ERP runs in isolation from the scheduling tool, which in turn runs in isolation from the BIM tool, which in turn runs in isolation. Actually, the BIM tool and the connected cloud run in sequence, but then all of that come together. And that's just some of the examples how they were able to get construction happening faster, a lot more faster than what it would have happened.
We have one more poll that we missed out. I just want to ask the audience whether you found the discussion interesting. Yes, no, somewhat. Can you just vote? So 94% have said yes and 6% have said somewhat. Thank you so much, everyone. Srinivas, Yogesh, thank you so much. What we understood is that digitization of construction project management and streamlining the information flow among the internal and external stakeholders can expedite projects. The pandemic has forced all stakeholders to think about how to use technology to effectively work and collaborate. It is also forcing developers and contractors to think of options to have solutions for remote and digital project monitoring, and to the extent feasible, contactless options for on-site data collection on project progress, inventory control, and labor attendance. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed and had a nice session. Thank you.
Thank you.